All right, hello, everybody. We have our people here ready to go. So we're gonna get this started. Appreciate it. It looks like we have two members on the line, Tom Taylor, Rich Hartman, and a couple audience members. Sarah's not here. Nicole's filling in for her. So you see her bouncing around. That's what's going on behind the scenes. We also have Shantae here, our assistant treasurer. We have a pretty light agenda today, but we will obviously always start off with the monthly financial update, and that should actually say 2024, because we are in February of 2024 now as far as the financials go. We attached the high level summaries here. I'll go through those with you. I'm hoping some of you got, if not all, that would be great, got to watch the ClearGov tutorial I did at our town hall last week. Hopefully after watching that or attending, I know Tom was there, which was great. You guys have a better understanding of what some of these numbers and percentages mean in these summary reports. Like I mentioned in that, what we're looking for February 2024 target. We're in our 14th out of our 24th month of our biennium budget. So we should be at 58.33%. So this page again is the funds and departments these are the departments within the general fund, and these are the funds that we make adjustments to as far as cyclical revenues like property taxes, hotel motel tax, transfers in and this street one. As well as expense adjustments. So we pay our insurance bill at the beginning of the year, so we have to adjust some of these numbers to compensate for that, or these percentages would be totally out of whack by February if we didn't accommodate for those adjustments. So as I stated also in that ClearGov, what I do is I go straight to these percentages of totals when I look at these compared to where the target is. Obviously for revenues, we want to be either at or above, which all of them are trending that way. I did mention the convention center. They're trending a little bit below. However, when you pop over to the expense side, they're way under on their expenses. So at this point, it's not something of concern. If their expenses were over target and their revenues were under target, we would be having some discussions about their budget and making some adjustments, because at that point, that would be eating into their fund balance, which we don't want to have happen. But as far as the revenue side, these all looked good. Expenses, there's a couple that are a little above legislative, but again, it's pretty close to target, so we'll just continue to watch those.
Which ones are those things?
Legislative, executive, city hall.
Yeah, it's not very large on the screen.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Okay, how's our fire department budget?
Our fire department's at 50%, so they're 8% below on their expenses as a whole. So this is the whole entire department. So there's different line items with the department, but when we're looking at these, this is the entire fund.
Okay.
Their department as the fund.
How's our overtime looking?
I can click into that. I go into clear.
Okay.
As far as general fund as a whole, so these departments are all within the general fund. At the end of the day, these individual departments can be over, above, but what can't happen per the law and per auditor's standards is this total has to be within budget for the general fund. So there's a lot of different departments within the general fund. At the end of the day, it's the total fund that has to be in compliance, or we have to start making budget adjustments to make sure that that's allowable per the state law as far as our budget goes. But the other ones all look good. There's a few that are quite under target, which is good. This storm drain will catch up. There's a big project we're bringing forward to council to do our, what did we decide it was? Freshwater master plan. And
Management plan.
Management plan, and we're also working on our annual either weed harvesting or spraying. So once those expenses hit, obviously this will probably come back and bounce back up to be more in line with the target. There's just some big expenses that we haven't made so far in the storm drain fund. The year-to-date comparisons are down here as well. We only have 2 months worth of data, so these are very, all over the place. Once we get further in a year, the data gets better, but, sales tax still trending up by 4. Utility taxes and building permits and hotel motel are all down. Again, those might become better as the year goes on and we get more data in there. Right now, again, it's just a 2-month comparison. Real estate excise tax and our gas taxes are up as well. That's compared 2023 to 2024. I'm curious to know what 2022 versus 2024 is. That's over here. So that is the sheet where all of the adjustments are done. Any questions on this page? No. So this is our monthly, where we're at as far as ending fund balance. So what I'm looking for here, are any of these in the negative? Some of them will go in the negative, especially these debt funds, because like these two that I'm hovering over right now, we actually pay those bills in August. So those take a while to catch up by the end of the year. But typically, like, none of these operating funds should be in the negative. We have to have talks if these are showing up as negative numbers and start, strategizing on budget cuts and, what we're gonna plan on doing with those, but all looks good, the end of February. This is our entire fund, budget versus actual. So again, this percentage total, should be at that 58.33. You'll remember though, this general fund is on that first page where we do the adjustments. So this looks, if you just looked at this number right here, it would look like revenues are over by 59 or at 59%, but just it, in the adjustments above, it's actually at 60 because we had to adjust for some of the property taxes that come in cyclically. So when I was looking at this, one of the things that I'm gonna be bringing forward as a budget amendment, we're way over on our LID bond redemption. The reason we're over is we pay that in February of each year. And this appropriate amount is just a guess on how much we're gonna collect in LID assessments. So we typically have to adjust this every budget cycle. It's good news, we paid more on our LID debt, which is great. But this, we do have to adjust by the end of the year to bring this back into budget to make sure it's within 100%. So that's one thing on my budget amendment list.
Angie, how much is left to pay off the lid?
Great question. I actually brought notes because I wanted to talk about that. Because I'm proud of that number, actually. So, we paid $650,000 for 2024 in principal, which leaves us with $566,000 in principal remaining. So very optimistic that we're gonna be paying off this LID debt within the next biennial budget. So that's exciting news. Also, as far as, since we're on the topic of budget amendments, they don't really correlate to this sheet here, but we do have another, couple items we've been discussing. The High Dune Trail, we're finally at the point where we're closing out the grants, getting that project reconciled. Working with Becky, and it looks like we are gonna have an overage on that we will be coming to council with a budget amendment for before making that final payment to close out that project. There is funding available. It's included in this capital improvement budget 301. We have some cost savings on the fire break. We're thinking about $100,000 that we're not gonna need for the fire break. So what we would do is we would just ask council to reallocate that to the High Dune Trail to bring that project into budget. So it wouldn't affect the ending fund balance for the capital improvement fund. It would just be moving that budget around to accommodate for the overages on the High Dune Trail. Any questions on that? That'll be coming to you in the next budget amendment, but we'll be bringing it to council on that. Okay. Another thing we've been talking about internally is ARPA. We are getting to the point where we have to have the funds obligated by the end of 2024. I know I brought this up in the last finance committee meeting. We will be bringing the council a request to use about $30,000 of remaining dog park money to finish some of the Chinook Park, items that kind of popped up as we were going through the process. I think one of them was like the ADA walkway, things like that, but
Fence along, Duck Lake.
fence along Duck Lake. So we'll be bringing that to council and kind of give you an overview on where we're at with Chinook Park, and how we're gonna ask to move some of that ARPA money around to accommodate finishing that project up. Other budget amendment items, council's actually only approved, one budget amendment. Actually, it's a 3 budget amendment since November when we did the last budget amendment. And that was the judicial service contracts that we did. So we'll bring those, I think there was a little cost increase for each of the 3, so we'll bring those forward as part of the budget amendment as well. And the LTAC surplus awards. So we are working on, the LTAC applications are out right now. We have about 380,000 in surplus funds. That's the estimate. If LTAC wants to kind of wind that back because there are concerns about occupancy rates and making sure that that motel tax money is still coming in. You know, the LTAC committee can also always recommend to city council that, you know, we not award it all. Let's be more conservative with it. But that'll be something for the LTAC committee to decide when we get to that point. The applications are due March 29th. They are all online for those who are interested in applying. And I believe the LTAC committee starts meeting in April. That's about as much as I got on budget amendment stuff, financials, LTAC. Any questions on any of that? A quiet group today. Yeah, okay. So with that, I think,
Rich just cleared his mic.
oh, okay, go Rich.
I'm just waiting for you to finish with your presentation before I ask questions.
Okay. I'm gonna go back to the mayor's question overtime. So I just popped back into ClearGov. Hopefully you guys are familiar with this. Our month-end financials are in there for February. Where you would find that information you're looking for is in this February 2024 expense report. Okay. Try to move you guys over here real quick. So for fire is within the general fund, so that's what we're looking at right here. So we're gonna scroll down, it's in 001220 is the fire. And again, I did, you guys have been here, because you're in my bars code area. I did in ClearGov, so you can, I know you don't have these memorized like I do, but the information is in there if you need it to go find what you're looking for. So as far as fire overtime, this is the fire. So there's 2 pieces to the fire department. There's the fire budget and there's the EMS budget. So the fire budget is included in the general fund. And right now, we are at 90% of that 58.33% benchmark. So I know we are working on that internally. The mayor can speak to that if you'd like to.
Not at this time.
Okay, it's something we're looking at.
Well, that's the small one though. If you go to page 97, that's where it's pretty
Yep,
aggressive.
that's where I was going next. So that, the general fund, typically what the split is 15% fire and 85% EMS is how we split the employees, because 85% of their time is spent doing ambulance stuff and not fire stuff. So that's why one is way bigger than the other. So this is, I'll show you at the top here, the 104 fund is our emergency care. And here we go. Here's the other piece to that. So the EMS side of this is at 93.15%, and it should be at 58.33. So again, something we're working on internally. We've been working on it for a little bit now.
So is
But this-
February just a blip in the radar? Because, you know, when we had a presentation made to us quite a few months ago to council to kind of fund the new employees sooner than later, part of it was the, what's the right word? The assumption that the overtime was going to go down and also help subsidize some of those new employees.
Well, Rich, the new employees aren't getting any of the overtime. It's the captains and one lieutenant that seem to be getting all the overtime. So if, it looked to me like if we added 100 more firemen onto that list, we'd still have the same overtime issue.
Well, that of course wasn't exactly something that they said employee overtime would go down, but by hiring new employees, we would have higher level people have more overtime. That wasn't exactly talked about.
No, I felt that, we were led to believe that more employees would mean less overtime.
Have you seen actually a trend where it is getting slightly better? Angie?
No.
The mayor just answered.
Yeah, no, I haven't, either has Angie.
Well, that was one of my questions. While we're in this, Angie, you were very specific about where we should put the $500,000 in reserves for our south side erosion contingency fund, shall I say? Where is that?
That is in our city hall budget, so I'm going back up to the general fund. And so, city hall, and there is a specific line item within there for the erosion repairs, there it is. So as of February 29th, we were at 146,690 spent out of the 500,000.
And I'll give an update on that.
Oh, yep, Scott does have an update in his city administrator report on the struggles we continue to have with the erosion.
Okay, so when we're seeing our 3 million in ending fund balance, the 500 is already out of that.
Yes, it is.
So Angie, when you're going through this whole budget, what are your top 3 notes? What are the 3 things that are making you uncomfortable that you're reporting to either department heads or the mayor about that scare you?
Well, it depends on the day, to be honest. Yesterday, it was the Dune Trail, which we had a meeting about and came up with some solutions to rectify. We had a police car issue that came up yesterday that we also rectified. So it's not, I mean, the overtime obviously is something we're working on. The Regional Fire Authority feasibility study is big on my radar right now. I continue to hear everywhere that the costs of ambulance service is going up. It's not just our problem, it's everywhere. How can we fix that? How can we be more efficient? How can we keep costs down? So we've been reaching out to the fire districts. We have a meeting with a consultant this week to talk about getting that feasibility study started. So that's a big one.
Frank, is administration still excited about that feasibility study, or should it rest in peace?
No, I think that, our fire department is very excited about it. They're very pro seeing this come to fruition. So, our challenges honestly are gonna be the other districts. So, but they're all waiting to see what this study has to say.
Have we ever seen a merging where expenses went down?
Well, I can't say that I know of it. I'm just getting, educated on this whole thing.
Yeah, so that's what the feasibility study will tell us, is if the numbers even work. So we're just, if we plan on merging the 3 fire districts, is that even pencil out? And at the end of the day, if it doesn't, then we won't go down that path, but the hope would be provide better service amongst the 3, so it's our department, it includes Grays Harbor Fire District 7 and the district that covers Seabrook.
Hey,
8. So the hope would be that, you know, we have more places to get help out to Seabrook, because right now they don't really have, you know, someone there to help if there's an emergency. Maybe get something going at the south end. But it's all about, you know, looking at the costs. The nice thing that we have, is Seabrook has a huge assessed valuation. So that might help our taxpayers pay a little less. So it's just all about working the numbers to see if it's even financially feasible. I mean, I wouldn't feel good recommending this if it's gonna double the cost to our citizens. So it's just a matter of getting the study done to see where the numbers pencil out.
I'm just concerned that we would be subsidizing the rest of the county north of us. But the
Well,
numbers
that's,
will tell.
they would be paying property taxes. So the RFA is funded by property taxes. So whatever districts or cities are incorporated, they would be paying their fair share.
We hope.
Yeah. Any other questions? These are great questions.
So when you're looking at the rest of the budgets, like things that worry me are I can't say the word little kitties, but our reserves for EMS and equipment and sewer and water departments that we're not putting enough money aside for what's actually coming. None of those concern you at this point?
It would be great to have adequate reserves to do all of the things in the capital facilities plan. But what they told us when they went through that is the only way that we would ever be able to accommodate that was to do a bond and basically ask for millions and millions of dollars to fund all these things at once. So during the upcoming budget, it's gonna be our job to bring to you a budget that prioritizes the most immediate needs and trying to find funds for those. And working up a plan to go into the future with, because we can't do it all at once.
Well,
And
that's a
some-
whole other thing too. The capital facilities plan I haven't even brought up yet. I was just talking about the funds we already have.
Yeah, no, we've been doing little pieces here and there. We haven't really done anything significant. But it's just, again, it's a matter of what's the priority. I know that they told us the convention center needs a lot of attention, so we've been asking for LTAC money to get some of those projects done, and we're gonna do another LTAC ask with this surplus funding for new carpet, so it's just chipping away at things that we can, that we have the money available for. I don't know that the mayor's intent is to go out for a bond to do everything at once, it's not really on our radar. But it'll be a great discussion to have, during the upcoming budget to see what we have and what needs to be done first, and then what to plan for later.
let me go on the record and say, I'm not looking at any bond.
No, I would also like to go on the record, because it came up at the town hall, like, no LIDs either. I've heard that a lot.
But when you're getting ready for the 25-26 budget, there's no question that we've got to do a better job at putting money away for our facilities. Even if I was to come to you and say, hey, how would you find us $700,000 a year to start putting away towards our capital facilities? How would you address that with us? What would you do? What would you train council or teach council on where to find the money so we can start doing our job?
Grants is always the first, because it's free. There's other resources. We'll most likely have a general fund surplus, the way things are trending right now, so that's always something we've tapped into to put aside for big projects that we need to do. Once this LID's paid off, there's gonna be some LID surplus funding we can talk about. Because the cost of running that LID is gonna go down drastically, and we do have money sitting there that we can surplus into the general fund to use for whatever projects we need. As far as the utilities, that's rates, so, that's how we get funding for those capital projects and capital needs is rates, and I don't wanna talk about increasing rates right now either, it's not on the radar at this point, but, there's ways to do it, it's just different for what we're looking for. What we didn't have before was the capital facilities plan, so we were kind of just like shooting in the dark, what do we need? And then it was like hair on fire, like something's broke, we need to fix it. But what we have now, and I don't know if you guys have seen that plan, but it is amazing. Every single building has a plan, and when this should be replaced, and how much it should cost, and pictures to go along with it, and prioritization, so that is our roadmap that we've never had in the past, and I'm really excited to actually have that this budget, because we've just been kind of doing it haphazardly all along.
It's just gonna take some money. I just had a little side note, manipulating through the email that you sent us on the ClearGov. There's a sheet that talks about, I think it technically is called, it's under budget projection, under budget project notes for the 23-24 budget.
Yep. I actually just
There
made
we go.
stops
Thank you.
yesterday.
Could you send that out to the entire council?
Yeah, of course.
Because it will show them all of the things that we put in writing for 23-24, and very few of them have seen it.
Okay, yes, I can definitely do that. That is, I wish I could pull this up right here. It's not liking me. Is there a way to get this to pop up?
You're acting like this is my laptop.
I don't know what it's gonna do, but you're gonna have to buy a product.
Oh, okay. Alright, well, anyway, like I was saying, unfortunately, I can't pop it up because this laptop apparently doesn't have Excel on it, which is weird. But, it's the roadmap. It's one of the most, if not the most important documents, I think, of our budget. And it's basically every outside of the normal operating budget item that council wanted us to do in 2023 and 2024. I was looking at it just before this meeting, and we have ticked off a lot of it. There's a few things on there that we haven't started on. Downtown revitalization plan was brought up, that's one. The regional fire authority studies in there. So yes, I will send it out. It's an important document. It has the bars codes on there. So as we were looking through that expense report, see the project, see the bars code, the amount, and you can go and click in that expense report and go see, you know, where we're at, what we've done. So,
And
definitely.
it's also going to be a little bit of a roadmap to where we can find some money for the capital facilities plan for the 25-26 budget. There'll be things on there that we won't be repeating, and even if it's only $500,000 or $300,000 or $100,000 that we've got extra that we can put towards that.
You're absolutely right. So these are one time. So these aren't like payroll that we're paying every year. So technically the money that's in these should be available in the next budget cycle as well for different items. So that's a very good point.
As long as our revenues stay.
Yes, also a very good point.
Tom, do you have anything? Because I've got one more I wanted to ask about.
No, this is my first one. I'm just taking it all in right now.
My first one in a while as well. So Angie, can you pull up the ClearGov again? The very first one that you pulled up? Sorry, I forgot which.
The expense report?
Yeah, let's go over. Yeah, let's go over to departments.
Departments, okay.
Yeah, and then operating budgets,
Okay,
and then scroll down and then hit right there, spreadsheet breakdown.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, this is a great report. If you've got any abilities, you notice that can you scroll back up just a little bit? There you go. The top of the
Please.
columns,
Yeah.
as you
Or-
scroll down halfway or a third of the way, you lose those. I don't know if you have the ability to manipulate that to where they always stay in view for people using this. That was one of my questions. Number two is, let's go to the first one that says salaries, and you see account ID, which is somebody's department.
Yep.
You know, normally I'm used to being able to click on that and it would say executive, or it would say legislative, or it would say fire department. Is there any way to know? Okay, so I'm on something a little different here.
So let me show you a couple things. So first of all, I did mention this in the town hall.
Yeah.
We do have a request into ClearGov to get these frozen.
All right.
Actually came from another council member and we ran it by ClearGov and they thought it was such a great idea that they turned it over to their programmers to like get it out in their next update. So they thought it was that great that they want to push it out to everybody. So they are currently working on that. Another update they're doing is getting these changed because we are a biennial budget. And right now they can't accommodate having this say FY17 and FY18.
Yeah.
That's gonna be coming out in, I believe they said third quarter of this year. We are one of their first biennial budgeters, so we've been testing
Okay.
this system quite a lot with them. So we've been giving them feedback with like, hey, this is kind of confusing, can we get, this is 2 years, and people are gonna think this is a 1-year number, which is not, so
Right.
we're working on that. As far as these titles, there's a header at each one of these
Well, so
sections.
if you scroll down somewhere, it had just salary, that you've got a total. I was in something that just
I don't. Let me get this back up. I do want to point out too, that in this, when I said there was a chart of accounts here to show you like what department is what, it's in this little ditty here. So like I was mentioning before, the general fund is one big fund, but these are all the individual departments by bars code. So when you're scrolling through that expense, if you're looking for city clerk, that's gonna be 001143, and they're all in sequential order.
It would be nice if you highlighted that, if it would actually tell you that. I realize that's not you, it's ClearGov, but most other applications in private practice you highlight something, it's going to tell you, hey, it's, this department.
Yeah, so I know which one you're looking at. It's this spreadsheet breakdown where you're seeing all the chunks of salaries together. And what it is it's showing that, because a lot of times people will be like, what percentage of the city budget is salaries and wages? So they're capturing, it's this number, 37.6.
Right.
And then the detail shows.
Yeah, there you go. That's the one. But it would be nice if anywhere else, if you had highlighted the account ID, it would have shown you what department it was. And that's a ClearGov thing.
Yeah. So
Also, when you scroll to the right, if you go all the way over to the right column, and you have to scroll all the way to the bottom to scroll to the right, I think.
Yep.
Which is another prop, that's no fun. Thanks. So that final column, if you scroll back up to the top, now that you're all the way to the right, what's the header say? So this is where, I don't really care what my 24 budget is compared to the 22. I'd sure like to know what my 24 actual is as a percentage of the 24 budget. That's what I think that column would help, because then as we as legislators get in there and look at that, we can see your 58.33% in a heartbeat. Well, right now that column really, no offense, it really doesn't say anything.
Right.
It's not this council's fault that a 2-year ago budget is smaller or larger than the 24 budget. It doesn't help.
So you're saying it would be more helpful to have this column, which is where we're at the end of February, versus what is budgeted for the biennium.
Yeah, because then it's gonna mesh with your I'm gonna call your old school budget that you've always given us. It'll say,
Yeah.
58 point, well, expense object, it'll say 58.33 or whatever, right? I don't really care that I'm 2.4% of my 22 actual for my 24 budget. You know, we do that when we're doing our budget, and we're the ones deciding what that 24 budget is. And sometimes
Yes.
it's got nothing to do with 22. So it's not like, oh, wow, look, they're 50% high. Nobody cares. We already went through that work.
Yes, I'm taking notes as we speak. These are all very valid. At the end of the day, this is for you to tell us what is more helpful in there. So whatever we can do to make it better, we are totally on board.
Because this, you know, I like to say shiny new toy. It's pretty cool. And it's easier than going through 299 pages of the old style budget you used to give us.
Mhm.
But it just, things to make it a little quicker for us to go through.
Sure. I got notes.
That was
All
all,
right.
that was all my stuff. You answered some of the other things, before with Frank and your presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate all the questions, Rich. They were all very valid and very good. I appreciate that.
Was she gonna do LTAC or just want to go to Vino?
I already did LTAC.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so for the city administrator, I just got two items. We've discussed them both briefly. They are both budgeted. The one is we'll be bringing the fresh waterways management plans, the simple one, to council. If approved, it'll be $165,000. Will come out of the storm drain fund. It's for Herrera to do the implementation of our fresh waterways and management thereof. That's fairly straightforward. The other one that's less straightforward is our erosion fund. This was budgeted, as you know, for $500,000. To date, including things that are not yet in the system, we've done 150,000, but we still have POs that are outstanding from the street department. That'll probably raise that to about 220,000. So if we didn't get any reimbursements, we spent pretty close to half of the erosion money. The good news is, however, the state of Washington did declare an emergency. They did that just yesterday or they declared an official emergency. The state recognized for Grace Harbor County for our flooding. So it is very possible that we will be reimbursed for expenses between those emergency dates. And that reimbursement would likely land us about $127,000. So that means that as long as we get that reimbursement money, we've only spent about 70,000 or so of the money that we will spend on those erosion efforts. We're hoping that, you know, the last rock cobble that we put down there marks sort of the end of the season for storms. But obviously, you know, nothing can be said for certain. But yeah, so final expenses will probably come in about 220. We hope to be able to reimburse about almost 130,000 of that.
Thanks for getting on that so quickly last year. I thought that some people thought we were, you know, being premature, and it's like, no, you guys were on it really well. So thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that. I don't have anything. So.
You're good?
Yep.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Scott or the mayor while we're on the line?
I got one LTAC question. We're gonna have our first meeting, it appears, Monday, the 8th at 8 a.m., I believe. I don't have my calendar in front of me. Does that sound like Monday is an 8th of April? Anybody?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, Monday, the 8th at 8 a.m. The goal is for us to, for the LTAC committee to be able to go through all of the applications and discuss them freely. No decisions to be made at that point. It's just a discussion about the applicants, and if any questions come up, we'll have time to get back to the applicants and ask more questions before they make their presentations in a following meeting. You know, obviously reserves are on my mind. I am scared about hotel occupancy rates staying where we're used to them. I know that they've come down a bit, but more importantly, I'm always afraid of the convention center and us not keeping it up the way we should. if it, now would be the time, guys, before we have our meeting. I know someone just dropped the carpet bomb technically on us. That hasn't been on top of mind. But I think of, do we have enough money to protect the structure of it with, I know we have eaves that have issues and other things, but I don't really know how much money we have sitting aside for everything and what the project list, the hot button or the hot list is for that convention center. So I just want to make sure we've got, that we're doing a good job putting money aside for it. So if there's something more than painting and carpet, we'd love to know before the 8th of April.
I think everything's expensed out. I mean, we got, new HVAC equipment that's already in the budget, that's coming this summer. And we got the money for the, soffits, which will be going out to bid here shortly. And, the carpet, the request by George, some of it's pretty beat up, but, you know, maybe the thing is we go walk that, Rich, and see what exactly that carpet looks like. You know, we can make a decision on it.
Yeah, we did sit down with George a couple weeks ago now to go through his budget and what we talked about LTAC, and his one item was the carpet. It's 20 years old. He has some pretty telling pictures in the application that he's gonna be sharing. He's out of carpet squares, so we can't get any new parts for it, I guess. So, that was his one thing that he thought was important to bring up this LTAC, cycle. However, we can always go back to that capital facilities plan and see what else is in there and, talk to him about maybe getting some other items in there as well.
And since we never say thank you, I want to thank Ken Mercer from the old days when he helped build the convention center, was smart enough to do carpet squares, but even more brilliant to put years and years and years of extra stock away somewhere. We'll need to take a page out of that playbook for ourselves.
Yeah, his request has extra carpet squares in it for sure, cause I think we're down to 5. All right, anything else? No? Well, I appreciate all the engagement, great questions. I am excited to, have you guys on the line and just appreciate you being here. And we will be talking about LTAC and budget amendments and all the fun stuff coming up.
And thanks for doing our best manipulating ClearGov. It is a great tool.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.